I don't think you necessarily find at all events. Everybody is just looking to have an enjoyable time and get good information.
Associate with everybody that's anybody in the conservative political side of the spectrum. And for me, it's an invaluable experience to be able to talk to people from across the country, other candidates that are running, to get input from them, to meet them, and hopefully we can meet each other in D.C. after November.
Great question. I think we need to have a process in place to stand for our Constitution first and foremost, and that we take the time to make sure that the people that are running for office actually share the values, the founding principles that our founding fathers had.
National School Board Association, I know you can hear us. We are loud, we are bold, and we will not be silenced.
What's important about today is we stand for freedom. Now we stand for freedom with the brave people who are taking to the streets in Cuba, but we don't just stand with Cuba. We stand with freedom-loving people everywhere.
But I do want to say to the man that is in that White House, what he has done is simply unacceptable. He has failed the Afghan people. He has failed the Afghan women and children. He has failed our military. He is leaving Americans behind.
You know, all they do is they use us. They've been using us for decades.
We share one thing in common, and that is to protect our children. That is to give our children the best possible education we can in this great country. I am the mother of 5 daughters, and it is a priority that we teach them the good values of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CPAC 2022. It's Scott Rhino, host of the Morning Extra on Xtra 106.3. We are back live here in Orlando, Florida for our CPAC. Right now we have some speakers coming up, and we're going to cover Ted Cruz will be up in about 15-20 minutes, and we're going to cover Fred. His name is not Fred. His name is Ted. His name is Ted Cruz, and we'll be covering his speech live. Sorry, I've been here since 4 o'clock this morning, been walking around talking to everybody. We got an exciting show coming up tomorrow. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, especially with Russia and Ukraine. We know that Vladimir Putin has gone ahead and taken Chernobyl. We'll keep you up to date. There's only one station, Xtra 106.3. Make sure you let everybody know. Download the app, share the news, spread it around. There's only one station in Atlanta that is going to cover Russia and Ukraine, and that's Xtra 106.3. And we have the best lineup in radio. Start with the Morning Extra from 6 to 9. From 9 to noon, Glenn Beck. 12 to 3, you'll get Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, who took off for the late, great Rush Limbaugh. Then after that, we have Guy Benson. Of course, we did Guy's Night Out with Guy Benson just a few weeks ago. It was a great event. Next time you want to get an event, make sure you go to extra1063.com and check it out. And make sure you follow us on social as well. If you follow us on social, you'll have an opportunity to be at our next event. So we're getting ready for Senator Ted Cruz to come on out. And as soon as he does, we'll go live to that. While we're waiting for him, enjoy some of the speakers here at CPAC 2022 live in Orlando. The Scott Rhino, Xtra 106.3.
As misinformation or disinformation about COVID and election fraud. And I want to read to you exactly what the Department of Homeland Security defined as a terrorist threat 2 weeks ago. If you make statements that, and I quote, undermine public trust in government institutions to encourage unrest, which could potentially inspire acts of violence, you may be a terrorist. Okay? I'm a terrorist by that definition. And that means that the government is entitled to do lots of things to me if it actually defines me that way. Okay? That is wrong. And by the way, this definition could easily be applied to plenty of people on the left who spoke out in favor of the Black Lives Matter protests. Okay, this is dangerous to both sides. It's dangerous to the United States. DHS should walk away from it, and journalists should be asking about it. But they don't want to, because they're so in love with squelching debate right now. The people who I used to work with at the New York Times have never said a word about this. I find it stunning and so disappointing. And you know, across the border in Canada, people who donated money to a protest that was truly mostly peaceful, essentially entirely peaceful, were threatened by the Canadian government that they would have, you know, their bank accounts frozen, that they would essentially be shut out of life for donating to a peaceful protest. That is suppression of speech. It is wrong. And 1 week ago, people in the federal government spoke out against a website called Zero Hedge, which had committed the crime of publishing some stories that the Biden administration did not like. And they said Zero Hedge might be an agent of the Russian government. We are at a very strange moment when this stuff is happening, and you know, the traditional defenders of free speech are not speaking out about it. So that's the government acting directly, but the government is also acting indirectly through big tech, which I know Ron DeSantis spoke about, Governor DeSantis, and I felt like he was speaking to me as he was talking about how big tech censors, because last year at this convention I said, hey, Twitter has been good. Twitter has allowed me to speak, and you know, I've said things about the vaccines, and I've said things about COVID that you know, the mainstream narrative it goes against the mainstream narrative, and Twitter's allowed me to do that. And then in July, I said something that Anthony Fauci didn't like, and less than a month later, I was off Twitter. Twitter had banned me, and that is big tech censorship at its worst. Twitter's doing this, Facebook is doing this. We know Facebook pulls groups, sometimes with hundreds of thousands of people. This has to stop. These companies have held themselves out as public forums. Twitter, Jack Dorsey, who was Twitter's founder and until very recently Twitter's chief executive, said under oath to the Senate that Twitter was a public square. This is not a public square if you have views that people don't like on the left, you get banned. They shouldn't do this, and whether or not they can do it constitutionally is a question, hopefully, that the Supreme Court will eventually get to decide. I've brought a lawsuit against them. Former President Trump has brought a lawsuit against them. One of these suits is going to get to the Supreme Court, and Twitter may not like the outcome. Because I'm not backing down, and I'm sure President Trump is not backing down. But it's about more than me or him or any one person. It's about whether these huge, incredibly important American companies are going to live up to their promises to allow free speech and open debate. And they are not doing so. So, I have 30 seconds left. And I hope next year, when I'm back here speaking to you, you'll be able to see what I have to say on Twitter, okay? And I hope we'll all be able to debate our response to COVID and Ukraine and everything else on Twitter and Facebook and these platforms. They should live up to their ideals. They should live up to our country's ideals, and they should be open platforms for free speech. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a power play. Please welcome former Alaska Commissioner Kelly Tshibaka.
Thank you. I'm Kelly Tshibaka. I'm born and raised in Alaska. The woke leftist tried to cancel me before there was cancel culture. When I was an outspoken conservative at a liberal law school, the leftists posted death threats against me in the student center. But they couldn't cancel me. I won't be bullied, I won't be silenced, and I won't be controlled. But make no mistake, the radical progressives want to wipe out diversity of thought. And a nation divided will not stand. Our founders created a government designed to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. Government is supposed to function like the 7 referees of a football field. They regulate the plays and they call the fouls. But right now, we have 700 referees on the field, and they're fouling us all over the place. When government grows, freedom shrinks. And for me, this has become very personal. My parents moved to Alaska before I was born to pursue an American dream. But life doesn't always go according to plan, and they ended up becoming homeless. But my mom, she got a job in the oil industry. And with that oil job, they were proud to fight their way into working class America. Yes, I'm proud of them too. I got to be the first in our family to pursue a college education, and then I dedicated my career to public service, making government work for the people. I'm an anti-swamp bureaucracy whisperer. I've exposed waste, fraud, and abuse, cut costs, and my favorite, held government insiders accountable. I was focused on my job, my church, my amazing husband, and being an Alaskan mom educating 5 kids during COVID. Yep, shout out to the parents. And then Senator Lisa Murkowski. You all could be Alaskan. She cast the tie-breaking vote to confirm the radical environmentalist Deb Haaland to be Joe Biden's Interior Secretary. And with that single vote, Murkowski killed thousands of oil and gas jobs, just like the one my mom had. I felt it like a kick in the gut. I owe everything to Alaska and to all those Alaskans who came around my family to give us those opportunities that we had. But Lisa Murkowski, well, she owes everything to her dad, who appointed her to his vacant Senate seat when he was elected governor. For the Murkowskis, it's a little bit like the British royal family. In the same way that Queen Elizabeth is going to hand on that crown to a descendant, the Murkowskis have been handing down our Alaska Senate seat like a birthright for 41 years. But nepotism breeds a lack of realism. So Murkowski, she doesn't feel it when she votes to confirm Joe Biden's radical nominees like she's done over 90% of the time. She doesn't feel it when she acts as Joe Biden's CEO. Yeah, his chief enabling officer, voting along with Biden's radical agenda and Bernie Sanders a majority of the time, which hurts Alaskans and everyone in this room. She even voted for the Green New Deal, you know, the infrastructure bill. But Murkowski didn't just vote for it, she helped write it. It is time to hold these leftist supporting insiders accountable. And aren't we all excited that come this November, we are going to block Biden's business busting, border bungling, crime cascading, defense decimating, energy annihilating, gun grabbing, gender jumbling, liberty loathing, mandate militating, parent punishing, police persecuting, socialist supporting, America obliterating agenda. We have inherited a great country because of veterans like my dad and others who have paid a significant cost. And they walk in the footsteps of those who signed the Declaration of Independence. And they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. I believe that to whom much is given, much is expected. So I'm not standing on the sidelines while Joe Biden and Lisa Murkowski and their woke leftist friends continue to obliterate the state and the country that I love. No. I'm all in. Yes. And today, I'm inviting you to be all in with me. Because it is time for Americans with courage and common sense to rise together and lead us forward. I'm Kelly Chewbacca, and I'm for Alaska. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, from North Carolina, Representative Mark Walker.
Thanks, everybody. What a privilege to be here today. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains, majesty above the fruited plains. Written words of a young school teacher making her way across the plains in 1893. America the beautiful. We are a beautiful country, but our real beauty is in the fact that we are a beacon of freedom for the rest of the world. Think about it. America is the most philanthropic country and is always the first to arrive with disaster aid. We have 25% more foreign-born citizens than any country in the world. We send missionaries to share the message, the gospel message of hope and healing of Christianity across the world. And we take in 1 million legal immigrants every single year that raise their right hand to the oath and take an allegiance to the Constitution. And we celebrate that they are as much Americans as you and I. Do we believe America is beautiful? Yes, we do. Hey, listen, I'm not saying that we got it all right day one, right? But America is exceptional because we never quit trying until we became the land of opportunity for every American. A republic, if you can keep it, Ben Franklin said. Well, we are the longest lasting republic in the history of the world. Do you believe America is beautiful? Dang straight we do. But freedom also has a price. Gettysburg, Guadalcanal, Normandy, I will never forget standing on the grounds and looking down out at Omaha Beach and across the Atlantic Ocean and realizing that D-Day wasn't won by great military generals or superior air cover. No, it was won by 18 and 19-year-olds that kept charging up that hill, wave after wave, to make sure that those freedoms would be passed down to another generation. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you today, do you believe that America is beautiful? Absolutely we do. Over the last few years, leftist radicals, or better named Democrats in Congress, they're no longer trying to hide their motives. It's all changed. Their attack to erode our liberty is supported by big tech, the press, and the media. And now even corporate America has gone woke. Remember the words of Democrat James Clyburn about COVID? Never let a crisis go to waste. In fact, COVID was used to fast-track mandates like no other time in history. Listen, they even changed our election laws and used it to test us to see how much liberty Americans were willing to give up. And frankly, I think even the left was surprised by just how much liberty we were willing to surrender. They will never stop trying to steamroll conservatives, folks like you and me. Today, we face a new kind of evil. The battle for freedoms in the 21st century is as much spiritual warfare as it is political. Do you believe that? Absolutely. When Democratic members of Congress literally vote against sustaining the life of a baby that somehow survives a botched abortion, my friends, that's evil. When Joe Biden and Kamala Harris give the green light to illegals when they know their children will be trafficked and assaulted by drug cartels, my friends, that's evil. In America, we have turned our backs on the Bible and the Constitution, and we've lost our moral compass. But today, don't lose hope. Because here's the good news. Joe Biden and the left have overplayed their hand, and Americans are waking up and engaging like never before. I'm meeting people who wanted just to work hard, to go to church, to raise their families. They're waking up and saddling up as well. In fact, moms across the country are taking down leftists on school boards right and left, and we celebrate that, right? Indeed we do. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, it won't be easy. There's a price for liberty. There always has been. Question is, what are you and I willing to pay for it? America the Beautiful. You see, there's another verse to that song that we don't sing very much these days. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. My friends, one last time, do you believe America is beautiful? Yes, we do. May God provide the path, and may we have the courage to follow. I'm Mark Walker. God bless you, and let's keep the fight alive. God bless. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome U.S. Army combat veteran Corey Mills.
Thank you, thank you. How are we, Orlando? How great is it to live in the freest state in America? But we're only free because of tremendous leadership by Governor Ron DeSantis, the man who beat and defeat Fauciism and chose America first, the same as President Trump did. When President Trump stomped out socialism, and who is the true elected, not selected, President of the United States. How many of you remember when President Trump was elected, when they talked about the fact that he will be the beginning and start of World War III? But what did we see? We saw more peace accords, more conditions-based withdrawal to these never-ending wars by the neocons and those who are trying to prop up this military-industrial base that we were warned about. Now what do we see? We see Joe Biden and America at the weakest national security we've ever faced in our lives. What do we have? We have the failed withdrawal in Afghanistan where thousands of Americans were purposely left behind. And how do I know this? Because my team and I conducted the very first successful overland rescue of a mother and her 3 children out of Afghanistan after the fall and the Taliban hunting them down. I paused my campaign for 6 weeks, and why? Because there is no price to doing the right thing. What do we see in America today? We see North Korea with hypersonic ballistic missiles, Russian technology advancing. China has now surpassed us with a naval fleet threatening Taiwan. And now we have the Russian invasion, or I should say, the re-invasion, because the exact same thing happened under the Obama-Biden administration. They annexed Crimea. They took over Donetsk. And yet we're supposed to be surprised when they go back because they see the weak and woke administration under the Biden administration. General Milley spent more time looking at critical race theory, but he should have been opening a book on how to win wars. And what do we have now? We have veterans who are being turned away. We have a military purge and an unconstitutional vaccine mandate. A mandate that should not determine if you serve our nation or if you are able to go to work and put food on the table for your families. Let me be clear. I am not for wokeism. I am not for critical race theory in our educational and military systems. I am not for unconstitutional vaccine mandates and masking of our children. As a father, it is shameful when I watch kids have to go to school and be taught that America is bad. How many of us feel that America is the best nation on earth? And let me tell you what else I support. As a constitutionalist and a conservative first, a Republican second, I support things like constitutional carry and our inalienable rights to protect our families and protect our homes. These aren't things that are government-limited rights. These are God-given rights. But let's be clear about what we see as well. Parental rights are more important than a woke teacher union. As parents, we know that. So as we stand here today in the great city of Orlando, never forget what we stand for, because today is the time that patriots must rise. Today is the time that we look at what Isaiah says in the Bible when God called and said, "Who shall I send and who shall go forth?" It is us who shall say, "Here am I, send me." I want to thank you all. I want to thank this amazing state. God bless you. God bless our families. God bless America. And that's why I'm running here for Congress in Florida's 7th District to take back our country. Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, it's Rhino from Xtra 1063 Atlanta. Make sure you go and like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. We got Ted Cruz coming up right after the former governor of Missouri, Eric Greitens. He's coming on the stage now to speak, but Ted Cruz coming up probably within the next 15-20 minutes. They're running a little bit behind right now, but we'll let Eric talk, and we'll be back live. We're going to continue live throughout the evening. We are going to go through Ted Cruz's press conference. Well, it's not really a press conference. Let's call it a speech. I'm going to let you speak to or listen to Eric Greitens. I've been here since 4 o'clock this morning. I'm a little bit exhausted. I'm losing words. But don't forget to join us tomorrow morning on the Morning Extra. If you don't have the Extra 106.3 app, make sure you go download the app. We got a big show tomorrow. Governor Brian Kemp joining us tomorrow. Also have Marjorie Taylor Greene will join me tomorrow as well. Doug Collins is joining us. Janelle King and Kelvin King will be live in studio tomorrow with us as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. You can chat with us there as well. So enjoy some of these speeches. We'll speak to you a little bit. Ted Cruz coming up within the next 15 minutes.
Trying to destroy our country. We know the truth. Well, let the word go forth this afternoon from all of you who are standing here that we are going to stand for our country and we're ready to fight for it. I've been down to the border, not just to Texas and to Arizona, but to the Mexican side of the border. And I've seen the 600,000 to million people that are crossing our border every single month. That is an act that is making America weaker and our adversaries stronger. They are trying to destroy this country. When you look at what they have done with the defund the police movement and the horrific rise in murders around this country, they are trying to destroy our country. When you look at critical race theory, you can see they are trying to divide our country. When you look at the COVID tyranny and the assault on our liberties, you can see that they are trying to destroy our country. When you look at inflation, when you look at the military disasters in places like Afghanistan, and Biden's policy of weakness and chaos that leads to aggression like we're seeing in the Ukraine, you can see that they are trying to destroy our country. And a lot of folks in the mainstream media, some rhinos, they might say, well, you know, I mean, this is just because Joe Biden is senile and Kamala Harris is incompetent. And that's true, they are. But it's more than that. But it's more than that, folks. No one is this stupid. No one leaves behind billions of dollars of military equipment for the Taliban, but that's what they did. And we must stand together to recognize the nature of the enemy. We are in a fight for the soul of our country. And it is a battle against evil. It is a battle against cruelty, and it is a battle against tyranny. And we have to recognize that the left's policies are rooted in cruelty. You go down to the border, right now, Joe Biden and Mexican drug gangs and cartels are involved in the largest human smuggling operation in history, and it's happening on our border, and that is cruel. We talked to one Customs and Border Patrol agent who told us about one kid who'd been sold 17 times. You talk to the families, the thousands of families around this country who've lost loved ones to violence because of the left's insane defund the police movement. That is cruelty. You think about what's happening for families who've had kids with disabilities kept out of school for a year. That is cruelty. The left is cruel, and it is also tyrannical. You look at their assault on our liberties, their assault on the First Amendment, their assault on the Second Amendment. You look at the left's assault on our elections and on election integrity. You look at what the left is doing, the way they now, and we know they spied on candidate Trump and they spied on President Trump, and we know the truth. And we see around the country the George Soros-funded assault on the rule of law. That's the nature of the enemy that we are facing. And when you look back historically, what you see is the same thing that our founding fathers saw. The nature of leftism is that it never stops. They always progress to more and more tyranny. And you can look at the Jacobins in the French Revolution. You can look at Lenin and Stalin. You can look at Mao in China, Pol Pot in Cambodia. Those who ride the tiger of tyranny They keep progressing to more and more oppression because they know that if they step off, the tiger will eat them as well. So the fact is, the left isn't going to stop. And you have to make a choice. We have to make a choice. Are we going to stop them? And I will tell you that right now, we know patriots around this country are rising up, and we're saying we are going to stand for our country and we're going to take it back. And this country will not be taken back by rhinos. It will be taken back by America First patriots who are willing to stand with courage and faith to make sure that we can pass on to our kids more than we inherited. There is a stark choice facing our country at this moment. And it is a choice between surrender to leftist cruelty and tyranny, or the revival of our republic with freedom and faith and courage. And I am here to stand with you for the revival. Thank you. God bless you. I appreciate your courage. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the National Rifle Association, please welcome Wayne LaPierre.
Thank you very much. And thanks to all of you for being here today. You know, everywhere you look, you can see Americans all over this country are worried about the direction our country is headed. Americans are sick and they're tired of watching our time-honored American values like freedom, honesty, integrity, the rule of law being reduced, ridiculed, and replaced by politicians who deal in lies, who see integrity as weakness, and who frankly don't give a damn about your freedom or the rule of law. Seriously, I mean, you want an example? Look no further than the guy that right now occupies the White House. Earlier this month, in an event to honor two courageous New York City police officers who were murdered by a violent felon, Joe Biden shamelessly used the opportunity to push his gun ban agenda. He went up there and he called for a ban on semi-automatic rifles. He called for a ban on standard capacity magazine. He called for a ban on private gun sales. And he called for suing America's firearms manufacturers into the ground and out of business. The one thing you didn't hear him call for at all is the one thing that could have saved those officers and helped them return home to their families that day. You didn't hear Joe Biden once call for putting violent criminals behind bars where they all belong. He didn't once, not once, mention that the monster who killed those officers was a violent felon out on parole when he should have been in jail. Instead, what Joe Biden did is he sat there and shamelessly looked right into the camera and he pointed his finger at you and me. And he blamed us and our Second Amendment freedom. This is the same Joe Biden who serves as a national cheerleader for pro-criminal policies, and you know what I'm talking about, like no cash bail. It's the same Biden who wants to get rid of mandatory minimum sentences. And it's the same Joe Biden who refuses to get serious about prosecuting felons who violate federal gun laws, and instead, he just lets them go free. Make no mistake, Joe Biden's radical agenda to help violent criminals escape justice is only going to make deadly crime and the wave that is across our country right now spread farther and deeper into more communities all over our precious country. But no matter how hard Biden tries to blame us for the violent crime that he enables, I'm happy to report that Americans all over this country aren't buying into his agenda. You know what they're doing instead? They're out there in record number buying guns. Last year, 5.4 million Americans purchased a firearm for the first time in their lives. And you know why? Because all of them can see what's happening all around them in their country. And they want to be able to protect themselves, and they want to be able to protect their families. They pick up the paper, and they see the daily news stories of another violent robbery, another heinous murder in another part of their community that they always thought was safe. And they know that Joe Biden and his anti-gun allies care more about protecting criminals than protecting those law-abiding Americans. You know, I don't know if you saw this, but in a recent news story out of Los Angeles, California, a small gun shop owner in Beverly Hills, of all places, reported a huge increase in business from the folks you'd least expect. Movie stars, film executives, Hollywood bigwigs. More and more of them were sneaking into his shop and secretly buying guns. They're probably the same actors who buy a gun one day and the next day they go out and rail against you and me and our Second Amendment rights. You know, when you think about it, maybe that's why so many celebrities are out there pushing so hard for mask mandates. They don't want anyone to recognize them when they sneak into the gun store. And if any of those Hollywood hypocrites are watching right now as we sit here, I have a message for you. No matter how much you attack us, belittle us, or try to shame us for exercising our Second Amendment rights, the men and women of the National Rifle Association will fight for your right to keep and bear arms just as hard as we fight for ours. Because this freedom belongs to all of us as Americans. And even though we're facing off against an anti-gun White House, Nancy Pelosi and Charles Schumer, I'm proud to report that NRA isn't just holding the line for freedom, we're advancing it. Every time Joe Biden has tried to ram through his gun ban agenda through Congress, he's run into a brick wall of NRA members. Remember, and you will remember this, everyone's talking about it, when Biden nominated gun ban lobbyist David Chipman to head up ATF last year, Chipman would have used his position of power to lay waste to our gun rights in this country. Every so-called expert at the time said Chipman's confirmation was a done deal. There was nothing anybody could do about it, they all said. Well, they sure got that wrong. NRA went out and led the fight to stop Chipman's confirmation, and when the dust cleared, by gosh, we won. And he went down to defeat. We also have taken the biggest Second Amendment case in over 10 years all the way to the Supreme Court. It will be decided probably in June. This landmark case is going to decide whether every law-abiding American's right to self-defense stops at their front door or if it exists outside of their home. And thanks to the men and women of the NRA, your right to carry a firearm for self-defense in this country is now legally recognized in 42 states and counting. Yep. Because now more than ever, especially in Joe Biden's America, every law-abiding citizen should have the God-given right to defend themselves and their loved ones, no matter where you live in this country. I want to conclude by saying I can't tell you what an honor it is to be here with all of you today and what an inspiration all of you in this conference is. I know you're here today because when you get worried about America, you don't just shake your head and your fist and scream at the wall. You educate yourself. You take action. You lead, and you go out and fight back. I've seen you do it year after year. And never forget that your voice resonates far beyond this room. And when you're an NRA member, it resonates even farther, carrying the weight of millions of NRA members and tens of millions more Americans who support our cause and look to us for leadership in defending freedom. So from where I'm standing right now, I ask you, join us. Join millions of your fellow patriots across this nation by joining the NRA. Join the most successful civil rights organization in the history of our great nation. Join because you pledge your allegiance to the principles of freedom, not politics. And join because your right to self-defense is more sacred right now than any other right you possess. And join because there has never been a more important time to saddle up and ride with the National Rifle Association. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. And let's keep fighting every day.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senator Ted Cruz.
God bless CPAC. What an amazing sight. Thousands of patriots and not a damn mask in sight. Obviously, everyone here is just following Stacey Abrams' example. We find ourselves at an existential moment for our nation. The threats in our country have never been greater. So I want to do something a little bit unusual for CPAC. I want to step back and go a little more philosophical and ask, what is this battle all about? What are we fighting about in this nation? And I'm going to suggest that the fundamental conflict that is playing out across this great nation is a battle between power and liberty. The two are in fundamental conflict. We are seeing it every day. Vaccine mandates versus doctors and nurses. Mask mandates versus kids in school. Spotify versus Joe Rogan. GoFundMe versus Canadian truckers. Justin Trudeau Let's pause for a second and observe that is the first time in recorded history that any Canadian has ever elicited that much of a response from any crowd on planet Earth. Justin Trudeau, and the God-fearing Canadian truckers. The New York Times versus Barry Weiss. Levi's versus Jennifer Say. AOC versus damn near anyone who ever dared to criticize her. Although actually, as she told us, if you criticize her, it means you really want to date her. If you look at this battle, this is not a battle between the weak and the strong. Joe Rogan is many things, but he ain't weak. Major League Baseball, which went after the voters of Georgia, the Georgia voters are many things, but they ain't weak. The Biden Department of Justice, when they went after parents. Parents are many things, but they ain't weak. Just ask Loudoun County. Just ask Terry McAuliffe. Just ask all the left-wing Democrats in Virginia who are scared out of their minds right now. You got to understand what is playing out here. What is playing out is the powerful are afraid. They are terrified of you. They look out at the men and women in this room and you scare the living crap out of them. They are afraid of truth. They are afraid of liberty. That fear is driving them. Let me suggest a principle, a very simple principle for conservatives to understand. Big is bad. Across the board, big government sucks. Big business sucks. Big tech, big Hollywood, big universities. Any accumulation of power that is centralized is fundamentally dangerous for individual liberty. What is it that the communists want? The communists want control of everything. They want centralized power. How do we ensure freedom? You know, the principles I'm talking about were said far more eloquently, far more elegantly 2 centuries ago by James Madison in Federalist 10. James Madison talked about factions. That was an old word for special interests. And he said factions, if they're able to seize control of government, will strip away our liberty. And the genius of our Constitution is the checks and balances that divides government, that makes one branch fight with another branch, makes the executive and Congress fight, makes Congress and the judiciary fight, makes the federal government and the states fight. And what the framers, their genius was, the Supreme Court has called it splitting the atom of sovereignty. And that if the factions, if one faction can't seize control of everything, then they can't use that power against the people. That principle was true 2 centuries ago. It's true today. Why is our liberty so under assault? Because giant corporations, giant tech, giant government, they work together hand in hand. You look at what happened with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, Jen Psaki. Oh, come on, Jen Psaki doesn't get the Justin Trudeau treatment? All right. You know, Peppermint Patty deserves some love. Jen Psaki from the White House podium said, billionaires in Silicon Valley, please silence that pesky Rogan guy. There's a pattern of government asking big tech to silence dissent. In Canada, the Canadian truckers, Canadian government says, GoFundMe, billionaires, please silence these pesky truckers. By the way, the workers of the world had a revolt, and the left is pissed. So what's the answer? The answer is threefold. Number one, fight power. Fight big government, fight big business, fight big tech, fight big Hollywood, fight big universities. Fight the centralization of power. Break it up. Break big tech up into a million little pieces. Decentralize. You know, we just had Wayne LaPierre talking about guns. Why is it the left, when they seize control, they immediately want to take away everyone's guns? Because then the state has a monopoly on force. If the only people with guns are the jackbooted thugs, then liberty is gone. So we need to decentralize. We need to break it apart. It's one of the reasons why I am so bullish on crypto, on Bitcoin, because it is decentralized and not controllable. And let me give a fantastic example. So Justin Trudeau said, I don't like me some truckers, so we're going to seize your assets. So then the court went to try to seize the crypto that was being given to the truckers. And I don't know how many of y'all saw a letter that I actually want to read from. It's a letter from a company, Bitcoin company called Nunchuck. Here's part of the letter. Dear Ontario Superior Court of Justice, our software is free. We do not collect any user identification information beyond email addresses. We also do not hold any keys. Therefore, we cannot freeze our users' accounts. We cannot prevent them from being moved. We do not have the knowledge of, quote, the existence, nature, value, and location of our users' assets. This is by design. Please look up how self-custody and private keys work. When the Canadian dollar becomes worthless, we will be here to serve you too. That is spectacular. By the way, contrast that to the craven, sniveling response of corporate America. When some whiny snowflake tweets at them, they go, oh my God, I'm sorry. Like, God bless you saying to the government, go jump in a lake. That's how our country was founded. That is powerful. By the way, that is also why China recently banned Bitcoin. Because they can't control it, which is the exact same reason Elizabeth Warren hates Bitcoin. The Chinese communists and Elizabeth Warren, they both want to control you. Your assets, your savings, your speech, your life, your children, every decision they want to control. And so we need to break up the means of controlling the citizenry. I want an unruly, uncontrollable American, we the people. Number two, don't ever apologize to the woke mob. It doesn't work. They are not engaged in rational discourse. They are not actually offended at whatever idiocy it is they're whining about that moment. They want to destroy you. They want to silence you. They want to subjugate you. Respond with joy. Laugh at them. It drives them bananas. Okay, are leftists the least funny people on planet Earth? But you can't say that. You can't do that. No, I don't like that. I don't like, shut the hell up. It's none of your damn business. If I want to get a vaccine, I'll get the vaccine. If I don't want to get the vaccine, I won't get the vaccine. And it's none of your business how I decide for me and my family. That scares them because it's not controllable. And the third thing I'm going to say is speak out. Use your voice. Every one of you has a powerful megaphone to the world. Speak out and use your voice. 2 years ago, I launched a podcast, Verdict with Ted Cruz. All right, I want to say to everyone here under 40, please go and subscribe to my podcast. You can get it wherever you get your podcasts. 2 years ago, we were the #1 ranked podcast in the world. To everyone over 40, call your kids, call your grandkids, and ask them to subscribe you to the podcast. Number 2. Text the word Cruz to the number 24005. Let me give you that again. Cruz to 24005. Why is that? Because we're using text, we're using the podcast, we're using email, we're using social media, we're using every tool to mobilize and energize a grassroots army because we are taking this country back from the lunatic socialist left that is trying to destroy our freedom. Let me say one final thing. In January of 2023, I'm looking forward to walking down the hallway in the United States Capitol and to bumping into a little man wearing overalls, carrying a screwdriver, and coming to change the sign on Nancy Pelosi's door. And Nancy is going to get on her broom. Okay, no, that's not fair. That's not fair. She's going to get on her private jet called the USS Broom and fly back to California. And we're going to send Chuck Schumer back to New York City. And then we're going to tell Joe Biden it's 2025 and he'll just wander back to Delaware. Change is coming. It is powerful. You want to know how powerful? Find me one person on planet Earth who doesn't know what "Let's Go Brandon" means. And not just in red states. How many of you saw at the New England Patriots game in Boston the entire crowd chanting, "Let's go, Brandon"? That is powerful. A wave is coming. We are taking our country back. We are standing up to power. We are defending liberty. We are defending the Constitution. We are defending the Bill of Rights. And together, we will save this great nation. God bless you.
Senator Ted Cruz. He's got the people standing. He had them booing, and now he's got them chanting, "Let's go, Brandon," saying it's one of the most powerful things you've seen in politics. Everybody in the world knows what "Let's go, Brandon" means. It's Rhino from the Morning Extra on Extra 106.3. Thanks for tuning in today from CPAC 2022. I do want to remind you, we know there's a lot going on with Russia and Ukraine, and this might not be the focus, but I do want you to know tomorrow morning, starting at 6 a.m. with myself and Tug Cowart, we're going to be breaking down everything that happened in the Ukraine. We do know that Vladimir Putin took over Chernobyl, but we're going to discuss all the complications with what's going on, why sanctions aren't working, and then we're also going to check into why didn't the Ukraine join NATO? What was the reason? Why were they kept out? And what years do 2010, 2014, and 2008 all have in common with Ukraine not joining NATO? Join us tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. till 9, and we have the best lineup. And, of course, the most conservative lineup in Atlanta radio, and they all will be covering the Russia-Ukraine war and what's going on in Europe. We'll start 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Then from 9 to noon, Glenn Beck will take over for us. Then after Glenn Beck, of course, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton in for the late Rush Limbaugh. They go till 3. Then from 3 o'clock till 6, Guy Benson takes over. From 6 till 9, Jesse Kelly, and then overnights with George Norrie, coast to coast, and I'm sure he'll even talk about the Russia and Ukraine situation. So don't forget, join us tomorrow. We'll be broadcasting live from CPAC 2022 all weekend long. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow. We'll give you a list of all the big events coming up. And also on the Morning Extra tomorrow, Governor Brian Kemp joins me. Marjorie Taylor Greene will join me tomorrow as well. Doug Collins is stopping by. Janelle King from Fox News, and then Kelvin King, her husband. They're both going to be sitting in studio with me tomorrow as well. So don't forget to join the Morning Extra tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. on Extra 106.3.